I know. Hey, we are live. Kellyinvegas, Steve and Cheah back to talk some NBA. Cheah, before we got started, we got to talk about it. You said, I am ice cold. And not
Ice.
the Elio ice,
No, I wish.
unfortunately.
No. So things are going okay. Regular season we did good, 98 and 66, including the play-in rounds, which weren't kind to me. 16 and 13 to start the playoffs. My last 11, 1 and 10, impossibly bad, horrible. Has depleted my bankroll 2/3 from the winnings of the season. Awful. We got to get right. We got one more pick tomorrow. Last night sucked. I was complaining to NBA stats because I protect people that bet with me, and we kind of got jobbed out of one. It sucks. I already made my pick for tomorrow. I'll announce it when we talk about tomorrow's game. But yeah, I'm ice cold, and it is the worst.
That is a very bad feeling. I felt it. I think it was last time I was that cold was late in the college basketball season, like mid-January to like early February. It's just not a fun place to be. But Cheah, like you said, with correct bankroll management, you're surviving to be able to bet another day, which brings me into my next topic that I just got a text from the other room says, don't talk about that. You sound like a know-it-all. Well, guess what? I don't mean to sound like a know-it-all, but I do think it's important for recreational bettors to understand implied odds and probability and what exactly is happening here. I tweeted about it. PFT has the Florida Panthers plus the Miami Heat. He called it the Florida parlay minus 900. Now, we know 0-91. That is NBA teams to come back and win 4 straight. It's never happened. And it's only happened a handful of times in hockey as well. But I want people to understand the actual risks. Yes, the implied probability of minus 900 is 90%. But there is some issues that I have with it. And I don't mean to say that this type of betting isn't for everyone, because people with massive bankrolls do it all the time.
So you're supporting it or you're against it?
It's not that I'm against it. It's not that I'm supporting it. I'm just wanting people to be informed as to what exactly the type of wager is and what is at stake, right? If you're risking $10,000 to net a very small amount, is that responsible for 99.9% of bettors? I say no. Now, PFT's got a lot more money than I do, so I'm not going to sit here and say that when he gets to take home like close to $1,000, that he shouldn't be very happy with himself building your bankroll. But we've seen, and I'm going to leave them nameless because they don't deserve to be talked about, several times throughout my tenure in Vegas where there was a guy on Instagram who was like, I'm going to parlay Alabama money line with Texas money line with Oklahoma money line. And it didn't work out all the time. And yes, when it worked out and you bet 10 grand to win 3,500, congratulations. But that time you bet 15 grand to win 5,500 just decimated the previous 6, 7, 8 weeks. And that is really where my concern is. I used to live in the nightclub industry. That was my livelihood on top of sports betting. And I had many waitresses call me crying. I lost 10 grand because I saw this guy bet 10 grand and he doesn't lose. Well, these things do happen. Yes, a lot less in professional sports than they do in college, just understanding variability and implied odds. So that's what I just kind of wanted to talk about, and I wanted to get your take.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call the $1,000 like a small amount. I think for most people, that's a pretty sizable amount. But he's also putting, to put in perspective, 10 times that much. That's not something that I would dip my toe in and try out. But I understand the logic in it. As far as I think this is, when you compare it to a college football guy that's doing money lines, I do feel like this is a little bit safer just based on the fact that it's a series and almost every time the best team will win. And if a team is up 3-0, that would signal that they're the best team. So I'm not worried at all about, I don't follow hockey. So it's 3-0.
Yeah, the Panthers have a 3-game lead over the Hurricanes. They have a chance to close it out tonight. They are currently minus 115 at the Barstool Sportsbook. So they are a very small favorite to win again tonight and to complete the sweep.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen a big shift in the series markets for Heat Celtics after last night. I feel like that's a massive overcorrection. I mean, the Celtics shot 40% for three from downtown. I think they took like 45 attempts. That I don't see this happening 3 games. So Miami are a really good team. I think this will be over in 5 at 6 at most. I would be very surprised to see the Celtics team continue to shoot. I mean, they had Derek White, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, all hitting like 3 threes.
I know. It's somebody who had an under. I was like, can we just please stop with the threes? Like, stop draining threes. It was nauseating.
Yeah. And we'll see how Gabe Vincent is. He tweaked his ankle a little bit last night. He came back and played, and Reggie Miller, who is terrible on the broadcast, just constantly wrong, says that it should balloon up, and how is he going to be? He's been a key player in this series, so we're assuming he's going to be at least playable 75%. I think the Heat are just a far superior team. The Celtics, even going back a couple months, they were praised for it at the time because they were winning. But Marcus Smart said they had no offensive plays. It was all just random. And now it's kind of coming to...
I do recall him saying that. Now we're starting to see that come to fruition.
Yeah, where they really don't have a plan on offense outside of their two superstars. And they have good veterans, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, obviously Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but guys that have been there before and kind of know how to respond. But I don't think they can string that together for 4 straight games against Miami. Obviously, they have one down.
They do. And tomorrow, Barstool Sportsbook, 8:30 p.m. Eastern for tip. Currently, Boston is 7.5-point favorites, minus 295
Which
on
is
the money line.
Wild to me. Wild.
Yeah. And 215.5. Now, I said this to a guy yesterday when we were discussing one-game sample sizes and must-win situations. And I said, listen, I understand that is a situational play, but until somebody can quantify it for me, I don't really understand how we use that as part of our handicap. Now, granted, Boston did cover and win, but it went from Heat being underdogs to Giannis and the Bucks, them being underdogs to the Knicks, to them being underdogs here.
Yep.
I think that there is an overreaction to what we saw in Miami. And, were you listening to the end of the broadcast? Charles Barkley, I can't exactly repeat what he said, but go back and watch it. It's pretty funny. Let's just say he was willing to make a phone call to bet a sizable amount on the Celtics to come back and just start dominating the Heat. I don't see it either, Cheah. But I know you've got some prop bets for tomorrow night. If you want to give those out now, live on the show. And we'll break down this game just a little bit further and see if we can't find a play for me.
Yeah, so the play that I'm going with tomorrow night is a 25-point parlay. So we're using alt lines, which is what is a new feature in the Barstool Sportsbook for the playoffs. I got Jimmy Butler over 24.5 points. And then we got Jaylen Brown, who has sucked. Hasn't scored over 25.5 points in his last 11 games. I think that trend is going to continue. So I like Jaylen Brown under 25.5 points. If he scores 25 points, we're good. If Jimmy Butler scores 25 points, we're good. That is a plus 104. I'm going to put that out probably later this evening as my pick. Again, I am extremely cold right now, but I do like these alt line parlays. They have been better to me, certainly in the playoffs, than most of my other plays. So I do like this play. It's at plus money right now.
I like it as well. Al Horford over points has been cashing really well from all my friends in the prop market. Said I should have been jumping on. And of course I have not. So now when I say that out loud, now he's not going to go over his point total tomorrow night. So everybody keep that an asterisk. But this is where it gets interesting, right? So if you watch last night's game, for the first half, even for the better part of 3 quarters, the Heat played like they'd been playing. And then something just switched with the Celtics team. They took over. I don't know if the Heat, you could say, quit playing,
No,
but it almost, I wouldn't either, but it was almost as if, there you go. They got sloppy. They made some mistakes, and the Celtics were able to capitalize. Celtics, on the other hand, like you said, they don't run a ton of offensive schemes. Half the time when I'm watching, I'm going, what is this team doing? Now, as far as the odds maker making maybe an over adjustment, this one did open 8, so it is down to 7.5. So I think a lot of people would have to agree with that. Plus, here's a Celtics team that since the All-Star break has not been that great at home. They've only covered 9 of they're 9-11 against the spread at home in home games, and I just don't know if I trust them. And that's my concern here, laying this kind of chalk with the Celtics team that has, I don't want to say if they've been down on themselves, but it's not like they made a lot of excuses, right? Prior to game 4, there was a whole graphic put out by the Barstool Sportsbook of different sayings from different players on the Celtics team.
Right.
I got to kind of wonder where their headspace is, right? Like if you know you're 0-195, like no team has come back from that deficit. Are you motivated to be that one historic team to do it? Are you already planning your vacation to Cancun and your New York Giants type of boat party? I really love to get these kind of insights from the locker room. I know most of your insights come from the NFL, but if you heard of anything, maybe we can get Prez to comment and say, hey, I've heard good things out of the locker room. This team is motivated and thinks they actually have a shot to win the series.
I don't know how. I mean, maybe he is. Dave was sitting at the scorers table the other day. I could have used him at the scorers table last night. It was
no kidding.
I see it in the comments begging for a stat correction. I do that. If people bet with the bet that I take, and there is what I see as a potential injustice or wrong ruling, I'll fight tooth and nail to get that corrected. It's happened 4 times this year. So we've changed losses into wins. But yeah, sometimes it sucks and we lose. But that is something that I do take pride with. If you bet with me, we're gonna sick the dogs on NBA stats if we need to. Unfortunately, it did not work last night. Kind of, I don't know. It wasn't the cleanest ruling, but it was something that I just thought should have at least deserved attention. And when we actually talked about it on the Yak, and everyone kind of agreed it was an incorrect ruling, not necessarily in favor of Marcus Smart, but it was seemingly an incorrect ruling on who got the rebound. So, yeah, that's something. I actually have a blog that came out like 20 minutes ago. I got to tweet that out. That
I love it
about that from our season long of doing that.
I'll make sure to share that with our audience as well. Stephen Cheah, I don't think I can bet another total bet. Like these are getting so tight. The bookmakers have done such an excellent job, even though we've seen in-game. And when I say I'm not going to bet another total bet, asterisk pre-tip, finding some in-game spots have been absolutely wild in not only this series, but also Lakers, Warriors, Nuggets, Suns, because when basketball teams go on these massive runs, so I think sitting at 215.5, I don't have the guts to take another under. Last night about did me in. I could not believe that we got to cash that by the skin of our teeth. And everybody holding the over ticket said, all you had to do was go and hit that easy layup, wide open. Very glad that did not happen. But I think that I'm going to be looking for some spots in game, especially when we see these runs and they start getting in the 230s. And even some of them were even up in the 240s and then still went under the total. Those kind of spots are really wild to me. I'm not sure if I'm going to jump on the Heat just yet. I know they've been an excellent underdog since the All-Star break, and I love that for them. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Celtics lose this one in 6 once we get back to Miami. Your thoughts on the side? Do you have an opinion here?
I think the Miami Heat are just a far superior team. With Spoelstra coaching, it's almost like they got 6 guys on the floor. They're really, really solid defensively. Offensively, they have shooters, and they've been hitting at like an astronomical rate this postseason, really. If Boston kind of gets back down to earth with their shooting, I think the Heat roll in this. One bet that I do want to point out that I hit on last night, I didn't put it out, but it's the value is good, is any Boston Celtic to score the first basket, not Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. So there's really good value. Derek White, 10-1. Marcus Smart, 12-1. Al Horford, 10-1. The Celtics, with Al Horford taking the jump, have been better against Bam Adebayo. He didn't win last night. The Celtics to get a defensive stop, and Horford ended up getting first basket. I believe he was 10 or 12-1 last night. But if you are going to win the tip, you have a decent shot at it. Jaylen Brown is the best first basket or best first field goal attempt guy by far, like almost double anyone else. But he's been really bad this series. So if he's taken out of the equation, it's basically Jason Tatum versus the field. And I'll take the field at 10+1. Very light sprinkle on it. Very light. I would almost never recommend taking 3 first pass guys in the same game, but the odds are so good that it's worth throwing a couple bucks on.
So when you sprinkle, for me, it's a half unit play because I'm sprinkling on like a money line that I've got a game that's, let's say I'm usually betting in college football 3 units. So what are we talking here? Less than a quarter of a unit, even smaller than that?
Like 0.2 units is what I would typically sprinkle on a first basket, because I mean that bet is over in 2 minutes, less than that.
Yeah. So it's a very exciting first bet. Don't get me wrong. I love it, but it is it's nerve-wracking for at least a good 90 seconds.
Yes. And then sometimes you get some added juice where they don't score for the first 2 minutes, and then you get your money's worth.
Oh, yes. Then you get your money's worth. More stress. You got to love it. We were speaking about implied probabilities. 75.4% would be the implied probability that Boston wins this game based on the current line of 7.5. But as Cheah and I mentioned, we think this one's just a little too high. I'm not sure if I'm going to be on the heat just yet. But Cheah, thank you for hanging out with me on a Wednesday. I know we got light work pretty much now until football season, but you got some stuff
next week.
It's going to be so weird. I don't even know what to do. Luckily, we have Monday off because it's Memorial Day, so that gives us like a little bit of a pass. But outside of that, I'm going, all right, hockey's moving along faster than expected. NBA's moving along faster than expected. And I'm just over here mad at the White Sox. Well, I should say the Guardians, because I have the over 7.5 runs today that my buddy gave me. White Sox did their job. Guardians did not. So we'll see if how much more sweat it was. The top of the 8th when I started the show. It's going to be a grind the next couple months, but we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Cheah and I are going to get into some football content. Probably, I'm thinking, mid-July we can start talking about football?
We can tap into some futures then, yeah.
Okay, cool. I love it for us. Make sure you guys are following Cheah at Stephen Cheah at Trust the Data. He has a points prop parlay up right now at the Barstool Sportsbook.
Not up yet.
You haven't tweeted it out yet.
Live, but I didn't put it out yet. Yeah. So
okay. Well, awesome. Well, he shared it with the Money Shots crew first. Can you give it to us one more time before you let us go?
Yes. Jaylen Brown under 25.5 points. Jimmy Butler over 24.5 points plus 104.
All right. I love it. Good stuff from Cheah. We'll see you guys not Monday because it's a holiday, but next Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out.